How's it going, everybody? I'm Seth Isaacson with Rock Island Auction Company. So what I've got before me is a small selection of the antique ornate arms we've got in our next auction. We've got a lot more than this, so definitely check out the catalog both in print and online. And each one of these on my right here comes from Europe, and what we've got over here on my left is from the United States. And what you're going to see is that there's continuity from the 18th century on through the 19th century in some of the styles. If you look at these pistols up front, these are some French officers' pistols from the 18th century. Very ornate, probably related to a high-ranking officer or maybe purchased by one. You can tell it's got gold embellishment all along the barrel. The bird's head pommels, which when we think of a bird head grip on a modern gun, you think, okay, it's kind of shaped like that. But when you see a pistol like this, you can really get an idea of why we call it a bird's head grip. This is actually an eagle grip. It's cast from silver. We do know that these were somewhat popular with French officers. Lafayette is known to own a pair of officers' pistols that were much plainer than this, but did have an eagle pommel like this. And if you look throughout these pistols, you can see that it's got some scroll work, it's got some floral designs, you've got birds, you've even got a squirrel up here, which is kind of interesting. You don't really see squirrels on arms too much. And this has got kind of a nice French Rococo or Baroque style. You got carving, you've got wire inlays, again, in scroll designs. And so it's kind of typical of your earlier 18th century styles. Much of these designs would still kind of relate back to Greco-Roman designs, and they were really popular in European both art and in arms, which you certainly can argue these are art as much as they are weapons. So going from these, if you move forward a little bit and then change geographically just a small hair over to what were then individual Germanic principalities in the Holy Roman Empire, but in Central Europe, you've got these kind of more Germanic arms here on this group. And the Germans used a little bit different style of scroll work than you'd see on the European stuff. And one of the things that's kind of interesting to see on these is if you notice in the carving and in the scroll work, a lot of the Germanic designs have intertwining scrolls, whereas a lot of times in the French and English designs, a lot of times they don't intertwine. The Germanic designs often have intertwining. Sometimes you'll see that in other arms, but in the Germanic designs you really see it a lot. Sometimes you'll see more leafy engraving, what we call black leaf engraving on the Germanic guns. And one thing you see on these is, it's a hunting gun, it's a Jaeger rifle. So one of the things you'll see is there's lots of game scenes on them. So if you look at the patch box here, we've got game on the lock plate here. We've got some more on various areas of the gun. You've got different game, predominantly deer, because that's obviously a gun like this would probably be used mostly for hunting deer. And that's kind of a theme you're going to see moving forward too. And on this gun, it's got all kinds of nice details. Like I said, there's a ton of carving. You've got engraving and chasing built into the metal. You've got a nice figural hammer here. The markings are all in gold on the barrel. Overall, a very ornate gun. And you see that a lot on European arms, because in Europe, most of the people that were going to be owning nice firearms are going to be the upper class, the nobility, the elite. Common people like us were probably not going to be able to have anything this fancy. And that kind of leads me into this next piece pretty well. This gun, though very German in design and ordered from a Germanic gun maker in Munich, this piece was actually built for the Emperor of Japan, Emperor Meiji. It's actually dated 1886 right along the edge of the cheek piece here, so that gives you a nice clue as to when it was made. We know from the documentation that came with this gun that the Japanese government considered this to be Emperor Meiji's favorite hunting gun. And what's kind of interesting about it, aside from the fact that obviously it's an emperor's firearm and his favorite firearm, is it's got a very, very European style to it. It's a German drilling. If you look at the front of the muzzle here, you can see that it's got two shot barrels over top a rifled barrel. So a very versatile gun. And in the 1880s, Japan would have been rapidly modernizing. Prior to that, Japan was mostly closed off. Until the United States basically arrived with gunboats in the mid-19th century and said they had to modernize and open up to foreign trade. And so the Japanese were adopting a lot of what we'd call Western ideas, including firearms and upgrading their military. And so it's kind of fitting for him to have a very European-themed gun. You'd kind of expect that if the Emperor of Japan's ordering a gun, there might be some kind of Japanese mythological designs on here. But what we actually got is we've got Diana, goddess of the hunt, here in silver. And on this side, we've got St. Hubertus with the famous stag with the cross in between its antlers. So both fitting European designs for a hunting gun, but kind of unusual and interesting for a gun made for the Japanese emperor. Like the Jaeger rifle I was talking about before, you can see it's got really extensive ornamentation. Again, something fitting for a high-end presentation piece, but something you won't see as much on the American guns as you'll see when I show you that. The American guns originally, when you see like colonial era flintlock rifles and American long rifles, most of the decoration was carving, but as you move into the 19th century, most of the decoration actually switches over to being engraving. So it's kind of an interesting carryover that the Germans kept doing a lot of the high-end carving and whatnot, plus inlays and silver and gold and all the engraving. So you can tell it's a very high-end piece. Like the Jaeger rifle, we've got a lot of game scene themes. We've got deer, we've got some more deer down here. You've got rabbits in different spots. In amongst the carving, there's some pheasants. And if you look back here, you've got the kind of black leaf style carving I was talking about before on the other gun. And then there's the rabbits I was talking about before. So really extensive ornamentation, all very fitting designs for a hunting gun. And one of the things that's kind of interesting on it is if you look on this side, you've got a nice scene of some hunting dogs, a theme you'll see both on European antiques and American antique arms. And of course, into the 20th century and 21st century, we all love our dogs, so who doesn't want their hunting dog featured on their gun? So the last of the European guns I brought out to show you guys is this System 8 Schützen rifle. So another Germanic piece. And if you look at this one, it kind of fits in perfectly with the Emperor Meiji's gun, because on the right side of the gun, what you have is a scene from the tale of Diana and Actaeon. So that's a famous Greco-Roman story in which a hunter accidentally sees Diana, also known as Artemis, bathing, and she actually turns him into a stag and then has him killed. In different versions of the story, there's different ways he dies. In this one, it shows basically her kind of participating in how he dies. In one version, he gets eaten by his own hunting dogs. So a very graphic tale, but it's actually very popular and shown in a lot of antique German arms. And so again, you can kind of see how the goddess of the hunt is a perfect fit for a high-end, sporting rifle or hunting rifle. This would obviously also be used for like target shooting. And like both of the other ones, this gun has extensive ornamentation, both on the metal and on the wood. So as you can see, starting from the front, it's got a nice dog or wolf head carved into the front of the forend, which is nice and fitting, both because of hunting dogs are popular in general, and because the scene back here does include one of Actaeon's hunting dogs. So it kind of flows through the piece nicely. It's got some nice scrollwork that starts at the end of the dog and then continues throughout the stock. And if you look at the back of the buttstock, you've got a wild boar, a popular hunting item. In Europe, you've got a group of hunters that are celebrating probably a successful hunt. And then if I flip the gun over, again, you've got extensive ornamentation along the whole side. You've got kind of a classic German marksman. You've got a boy holding a target, and you've got a gun range, like a rifle range in the background, a little town. And then on the back, you've got probably the same hunter enjoying a nice pint, and his rifle still slung on his back, probably celebrating a successful day. So again, nice consistent theme throughout the whole gun and really extensive embellishment. You've got, even inlays into the wood, which kind of makes it pop. And then one thing you see on Schützen rifles in particular is you see these really complex buttstocks, and that's designed to really help you line up your sights really easily and for offhand target shooting. So now that we've kind of discussed all of these European guns on my right, let's go ahead and talk about some of the American stuff on the left and kind of how they build off of the earlier European designs. Some of these designs are going to actually predate some of what I've talked about here, but these designs are all classical and traditional designs that were then brought over to the US and became part of our own arms designs. So the American gun I'm going to talk about first is this slant breech sharp sporting rifle. We believe this gun was engraved by Gustav Jung. And one of the things you're going to see on this gun is that the engraving style and some of the themes are relatively similar to the German guns, which makes sense because Gustav Jung was a German immigrant, which is true of a lot of the early American gunsmiths and engravers. If you look, like on some of these other guns, you've got a nice scene on the side of a hunter with a rifle and his dog kind of relaxing underneath the tree. So again, fits in perfectly with what we saw before, but kind of comes over to the United States and kind of becomes our own design. You can see the scrollwork is very distinctly Gustav Jung's style. And if you look at this side over here, you'll see on the patch box there's a nice bird scene here. Again, nice complex scrollwork. The classic scrollwork extends all the way up the lock, even onto the barrel. You can see there's little floral designs interworked amongst the scrolls. And the scrollwork also extends down on the trigger guard and then down along the lower tang. Now, one thing you might have noticed on the stock, compared to the actual German pieces, there's not a whole lot of decoration. One thing you'll see on American guns sometimes, if you look on this side, is an inscription plaque. This gun was actually owned by an American military officer who was a military instructor at a school in the East, and then this gun was given to him right around the time he joined the Army and then headed actually back out to the West. So from there, let's talk about this beautiful Ames presentation sword at the front here. One thing you'll notice right away when you look carefully is you're going to see scroll work all along the metal. Scroll designs remained popular throughout the 19th century, and then into the 20th century and 21st century. You still see scroll work on a lot of engraved Colts and single actions and 1911s and rifles and whatnot into the present day. Among the diamonds, you see some classic Marshall motifs, which you'll also find on English flintlock dueling pistols and even sometimes officers' fusils and whatnot, and then you'll also see them on French designs and even German guns. So up here between the suspension rings, what we have is a silver rendition of Medusa's decapitated head. What that is known as a Gorgonian, and it's a ancient symbol that was believed to ward off evil. So if you remember that from your Greco-Roman history, they decapitate Medusa's head and then it becomes something that helps them win. And then if you look up on the actual hilt, which is again all gold, you're going to see some more scrolls. You see a nice Marshall motif here that includes the Columbian shield, so kind of add some American elements to it. You got some patriotic motifs. And then the silver grip has also got scroll designs all along it. In keeping in theme with that kind of American elements mixed with European elements, what we have down here is what's called the Statue of Freedom. This is actually on top of the US Capitol building, and it was actually put on the Capitol building during the Civil War. So it's kind of a fitting design to be on a US officer's sword. And you can kind of see that this kind of resembles in some ways Artemis and some other Greco-Roman god and goddess motifs, because it's basically a national personification, kind of like Britannia in England or Marianne in France. Now on the sword itself, if you look along the blade, this sword is pretty much new. I mean, this is basically as mint as you can get from a sword from the Civil War era. And it's got beautiful, again, very floral, ornate scroll work as part of the etching all along the blade that fits perfectly with the designs you kind of see on those French pistols I was showing you before. Again, you've got some Marshall motifs highlighted in gold. You've got a Union standard bearer down here towards the base of the blade, and then again, more scroll work. Now when I flip it over, what you're going to see is you've got US in gold right along the middle of the blade there, again, surrounded by really fancy scrolls. So then down below further, what you've got is a much earlier design of a halberdier, and then below that, you've got some more scrolls, and then a nice patriotic American eagle, and then the nice Ames maker's mark etched into the blade. So the last gun I have to talk to you about today is this beautiful Providence Tool Company Peabody Martini target rifle. As you can see, again, this gun has very fine classic scroll engraving as part of the designs. You got a really highly detailed scene of two dogs pursuing a rabbit. And that's one of the things you're going to see as time goes on. By the late 19th century, the game scenes get incredibly highly detailed. So while you might see less carving and whatnot on the wood, the engraving quality continues to get better and better as you move forward. And that scene is incredible. I mean, you can see the hair, you can see kind of the rib structure on these dogs. It's very, very detailed. And then aside from that, the gun's got some nice trackline borders. And then on the other side, you can see the actual maker's marks are nicely engraved in kind of a circle here. But otherwise, kind of a classic American style later gun where you've got nice engraving, beautiful blue finish and case hardening, and a really nicely figured stock. And we kind of let the stock speak for itself. I mean, you don't really need to carve a stock when it's got that really beautiful kind of burl and flame figure going on it. So as I said at the beginning, this is a small selection of the really ornate, really high-end antique arms we've got coming up in our premiere auction. Definitely check out our other videos. You can see other really nice engraved pieces, including some Colts, some Bouteilles from Europe, and you're going to see how some of the designs we talked about today kind of continue through all of those guns. There are new innovations and new designs, but kind of everything kind of comes from a classic continuity back from ancient Greece and Rome. If you want to check out all the technical details and close-up photos and whatnot of all of these arms, definitely check out our catalog online and in print, and come check out our auction on April 24th, 25th, and 26th.